Okay, well, good afternoon and welcome everyone to today's pre-solicitation meeting for the Hybrid and Zero Emission Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Project, or HVIP, Third-Party Administrator. My name is Matt Williams and I am the lead staff for HVIP. I'm joined today by several other CARB staff, including Rochelle Bishop, the manager overseeing HVIP, and Inder Atwal, who will be helping to facilitate this meeting. Before we get started, a little information on meeting logistics. This meeting is being recorded. We anticipate a copy of the recording will be made available on the Low Carbon Transportation Investments and Air Quality Improvement Program meetings and workshops webpage in about 2 weeks. Materials for today's work group, including the agenda and slides, are available on the same webpage. A link to these materials will be dropped in the Zoom chat, and I will stop often for questions and comments. We will be leveraging Zoom's raised hand feature to facilitate comments and questions. If there are Zoom disruptions for any reason, including malicious intent, we will immediately end today's meeting and send out another notice to reschedule. And lastly, we are unable to allow anonymous meeting participants for security reasons. Please make sure that your name is clear on the Zoom platform. If you are participating by phone and raise your hand by pressing #2, we will call on you based on the last 4 digits of your phone number. I'll provide my contact information at the end. If you have additional questions or comments after this meeting, you can contact me via email. And as always, we appreciate your patience if we run into any technical issues. This is the pre-solicitation work group for HVIP third-party administrator for fiscal year 2022-2023. The purpose of this meeting is to share information about the forthcoming solicitation for a grantee to administer HVIP. That solicitation will be available in the coming weeks. This meeting is not about the implementation of HVIP. This meeting will not cover HVIP or CARB funding policy, including voucher amounts, fleet caps, fleet or dealer participation, technology eligibility, or the fiscal year 2023-24 funding plan. This is the pre-solicitation meeting for selection of an HVIP third-party project administrator who will be responsible for conducting the day-to-day business of running HVIP, responsibilities that include updating the HVIP website, tracking project impacts, and conducting outreach, among other duties that will be enumerated in the solicitation. I will pause here for initial questions. We ask that you raise your hand to let us know that you'd like to ask a question or make a comment. Inder will then unmute your line, and you may need to unmute yourself as well. For those of you participating via phone, please press #2 to raise your hand, and we will call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. Please state your name and affiliation before beginning your question or comment. Inder?
No questions at this time, so we can continue.
Okay. The forthcoming solicitation is to administer funding allocated to HVIP in the fiscal year 2022-23 funding plan. The funding plan, which was approved by the board in November, can be found on the Low Carbon Transportation Investments and Air Quality Improvement Program webpage, a link to which will be dropped in the chat. In fiscal year 2022-23, HVIP was provided with a total of $587.7 million, divided between HVIP standard and the set-asides shown here. A little more than half the money comes from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, or GGRF, and the rest is appropriated from the general fund. This solicitation and the resulting grant agreement only covers funding from fiscal year 22-23. However, CARB, in its sole discretion, may award a new grant agreement to the grantee selected in response to this solicitation for each following year for fiscal year 23-24 and fiscal year 24-25 under the same terms and conditions. The grantee, however, understands and agrees that there is no guarantee that the subsequent fiscal year 23-24 or 24-25 grant agreements will be awarded. If there are any questions or comments, please raise your hand or press #2 and we will call on you. Please state your name and affiliation before beginning your question or comment. Inder, do we have any questions?
No, not at this time.
Great. This competitive solicitation is open to California-based public entities such as public agencies, municipalities, counties, special districts, or California-based nonprofit organizations. Equipment manufacturers, dealers, and other private entities are not eligible to apply for this solicitation. Once again, I'll pause for any questions.
We have one question from Matt Trapp. I'm gonna unmute you now at this time.
Thank you, Matt Williams and team there. This is Matt Trapp with the Harbor Trucking Association. Just a quick question, if you could elaborate on the nonprofit organizations, what exactly different classifications within the IRS tax code are eligible for this type of application? Thank you.
501c3.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope, that was the only one right now.
Okay. We'll be releasing the solicitation on June 13th. A bulletin will be sent out through GovDelivery noticing the availability of the solicitation, which will be accessible at that time on the Low Carbon Transportation Investments and Air Quality Improvement Program solicitations webpage, a link to which will be dropped in the chat. Questions about the solicitation can be submitted to me directly until June 28th. We will have an applicant Zoom conference on June 29th, where we will answer the questions received. We will post the applicant Zoom conference question and answer document on July 20th. The final deadline to submit an application to this solicitation will be August 29th, and a preliminary grantee will be selected on September 27th. I will pause again for questions. We ask that you raise your hand to let us know that you'd like to ask a question or make a comment. Inder will then unmute your line, and you may need to unmute yourself as well. For those of you participating via phone, please press #2 to raise your hand, and we'll call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. Again, please state your name and affiliation before beginning your question or comment.
All right, we have one question from Joe Campbell. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you at this time.
Yeah, Joe Campbell, Helix Water District. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Just curious how much longer is left in fiscal year 22-23?
So I believe the budget language allows for a total of 6 years. So I think we get 4 years to encumber and 2 years to expend.
Gotcha, thank you.
And that was the only question we had right now at this time.
Okay. Applications will be evaluated, scored, and ranked based on the criteria categories here. These criteria assess the applicant's ability to effectively and efficiently administer the project. Specifics on exactly what is expected for each of these will be described in the solicitation package. The top scoring applicant will be selected to execute a grant agreement. This concludes the presentation. Once again, we'll open it up for questions or comments. We ask that you raise your hand to let us know that you'd like to ask a question or make a comment. Inder will then unmute your line, and you may need to unmute yourself as well. Please remember to state your name and affiliation before beginning your question or comment.
Okay, we have one question at this time from Tim. Tim, you should be
Hi, thank you. Tim Sessine from Ballard Power Systems. Good to see you again, Matt. It's been a long time. I have a question about ensuring that there are not conflicted interests in the HVIP administrator. We've had concerns in the past, or at least I've been part of organizations that have had concerns where CARB's strategic policies are set by outside organizations through grant solicitations, and those same agencies are then also charged with administering the grants that have been stipulated by that strategy. Is there anything within this solicitation that ensures that not too much of CARB strategy or administration is coming from any one organization, and then that organization doesn't have conflicted interest with other responsibilities.
I'm not sure I totally understand your question. I mean, I can say, of course, that CARB is always in control of the policy that we decide on and publish based on our consultancy with our experts internally and externally, as well as stakeholders in the public. But was there something particular that you're referring to?
Well, it's hard not to name names. Anybody else on the line might contribute, but you know, there have been organizations that have garnered the lion's share of administering grants policies. And certainly those organizations have their own ways of doing things, which starts to make CARB's way and their way look kind of intertwined. I guess that there's still, we've yet to see a lack of recognition of that on CARB's part, but it would be good to see, I guess, if nothing else, a diversity in the organizations that CARB enlists to distribute these sort of programs. More diversity.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And then, of course, I'll bring back to the evaluation and scoring this grant solicitation, like all of our competitive solicitations. The project administrator is selected based on the highest scoring applicant based on the criteria that will be fully enumerated in the solicitation package. Are there any other questions?
I don't have any other ones at this time.
Okay, great. If any of you have any additional questions or comments from here on out, please contact me, Matt Williams, at matthew.williams@arb.ca.gov. That email has also been dropped into the chat. I will give it one more opportunity for any lingering questions or comments before we conclude. Okay, thank you very much for your time today. Happy to give you back the rest of the time. And once again, if you have any questions or comments from here on out, please send me an email, the email on screen or the one that has been pasted in the chat. Thank you again for attending and for your time, and have a great rest of your day.